This video is a follow-on to the C.r.a.p Box video for December/November, depending on which way you look at it, from Unmanned Tech. C.r.a.p standing for Curated Yet Random Assortment of Products. And this month they've done a theme of a Tinywhoop. And they've given us literally all the parts we need, with the exception of two. One of those is a battery, which we don't have, but I happen to have a few of those. And the other one is a receiver, which I happen to have a spare FrSky XM Plus, which is massive overkill for this, but will do the trick. And I'm actually quite glad they didn't give a receiver, because one of the things I find with Tinywhoops is that they can often be on D8 profiles, which in the UK is a bit of a grey, well, you shouldn't have them, but realistically people do. And not all the quads come with receivers, so this gives us a completely legitimate receiver. So what I'm going to do is a quick build video of how to put this all together. Okay, so beginning the build, I was trying to find the instructions of how to put this all together from the Unmanned Tech's blog, which is blog.dronetrest.com. I'll put a link somewhere, but I can't find the instructions at this moment in time, so I'm just going to have to wing it. So what we're going to do to start with is simply open up all the parts. Very important to note, there are some very small screws in for the casing, so we need to make sure we don't lose any of those pieces. Okay, so really make sure you don't lose your screws. I've had to recover mine because I've found them on different parts of my desk. So first thing I'm going to do is get the canopy set up. So I'm going to put the little screen protector on there, the little mounting bracket on there, and I'm going to put the antenna through the hole. And I'm going to make sure this all connects up as it should do. Okay, so I've managed to now fit the camera in there. One of the things that's really important is you need a really, really small screwdriver. I've got one of these little electric ones, which is absolutely perfect for working on this. There is a review on my channel for this one. So yeah, they're quite tight to get in, and I'm just trying to make sure it's all right. I'm not sure I'm using the right screws or whatever, but effectively it's all in there. So that's the canopy sorted, and the antenna comes out of the top, so that's good. So next thing to really work on will be to get all the soldering done. So I'm just going to solder up the pads on here and make sure everything's in the ready for solder. Right, so finding the instructions online, what I need to do is I need to solder these four at the top, which is like the order may not be, let's make sure we've got the view here. So video in, video out, 5 volts and ground. Can't remember the order, but I'll just make sure that's right when I solder it up. I've got a ground plus and minus, so sorry, voltage in, so those are controlled there and there. And then these are receiver in, 5 volts and ground. So that's all I need to solder on this, so I'm just going to go do that now. Okay, so now I've done that, I need to pick which pigtail I need to use. So my batteries are all this type, which I can't remember the name of. I will put it on screen. So I'm going to fit that onto here. Okay, so that's now soldered on. So that's ready to go. So I'm going to now solder up my receiver, which so I'm using an XM Plus, which is what you would use for a 5-inch quad, simply because of the fact that it's the sort of thing that I have floating around my house. Mainly because of the fact I've been testing other receivers recently. So this is the smallest one I've got, so you could use any other receiver and you'd do the same process I'm doing here. Okay, so that's now joined up, and hopefully that will all fit underneath nicely when I put it all together. Might require a bit of fiddling, but we'll make that work. Okay, so now we're moving on to the camera cables. So there's a nice handy dandy guide here that tells you what the cables are and what they are relevant to. So green is video out, video in is yellow, and black is obviously ground, and red is 5 volts. So we just need to get those to the corresponding pins on here. First of all though, we need to clip the connector off. Okay, so I've now soldered this whole thing up. Now, this end was a real pain in the, yeah, whatever, because the closeness between the ground pad and the this little item here, which I'm guessing is some form of regulator, so that there. So that's made it a little bit difficult, but it's all done now, so we'll see if it explodes. Okay, so now I'm just going to put the little rubber grommets in. So I'm going to put the long side facing downwards, downwards being where the connections for all of the motors would be. Okay, so what I've done is I've put the XM Plus underneath. I need to do a bit of tidying of the cables, and I've run this around the back. I've probably got the frame the wrong way round, but I don't think it really makes that much difference. And I've run the antennas at the top and that antenna at the top, so effectively that should all be ready to go. I just need to put the motors on now. So, without instructions, what I'm going to go with is assume that it's the same as what's on my Tinywhoop, review to come soon, and that's got black in these two corners and red in the other two corners. So I'm going to take the same approach with this. So I'm going to put the reds in these corners, blacks in these corners, and the great thing about these is they just screw in and then plug in. So let's get on with that. Okay, so let's power this up. So I use a 1S, this is a 300 milliamp 1S battery, so we plug that in. So we've got the initialization noises from the ESC, so that's great. That means that there's power. I can see some lights on there. I've got the receiver is already bound to my transmitter anyway, so that'll be, I'll sort that out later. And I can also see, if I put my, I'll show you what I can see. So if I, there you go, that's my quad and that's the screen, so therefore it is doing video out. So that is a good thing. So we've actually wired this all up. So the next thing to do is make sure it's all working on Betaflight and that it works. Okay, so let's talk about how this drone gets on. So overall, it flies quite nicely. It needs a lot more tuning. I literally took this straight out of the box, flashed the firmware, made sure it worked. That was it. It needed much more work than I spent time on, but you could easily sort it out. One of the weird things I found of it is that the UART for the receiver was UART 3. So if you're setting up S-Bus, you need to have UART 3 set up. Important note. Unmanned Tech were great. They told me how to do that. The other thing was that this the instructions are online now. They were oddly down the point where I actually went and did the build, and they were working on them. So they are there now. If you need the guide, if you want some more text than what I've given you, I've found out that I have made the frame the wrong way round, but it doesn't make any difference in terms of what we're using this for. So that's fine. So overall, it flies well. It needs more work, but it flies well. The weakest point of this is the camera. The camera is not great. The footage isn't fantastic. When you compare it to the newbie drone Acro BV2 or the Beta FPV 65X, which will be up there, you will see that they are much better quality in terms of the footage you're getting. And also they've got smart audio, which is kind of one of the things I expect to see. That being said, £120, £110, £55 maybe in terms of the parts that what we got in the box. So can't complain, although it sounds like I am. What I would say is if I was going to do something to this, I'd probably take the camera straight out of this and replace it. That would be the first thing I do. Other than that, it's fine. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've found me via Facebook or found me via the YouTube links or something like that, please consider liking and subscribing. I've got a load more footage coming. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.